I have to start off with the Pittsburgh Steelers victory over the Washington Commanders. Um, it was a game between two legitimate teams, with the Washington Commanders entering this game on a 7-2 record. 7-2. Pittsburgh coming in 6-2 in a game that was a really good measuring stick for both teams. With Washington, they've had a really good start. They have Jaden Daniels, the rookie, that's just lighting up the league right now, running away with Rookie of the Year. They have his rise, but and they had some quality wins early on the season, beating Cincinnati. That was really the big one. But other than that, they lost to Baltimore and they got that Hail Mary victory over the Bears. But they've been consistent and they've steadily improved from that opening day loss that they suffered to Tampa Bay. But this was really a very, very good test for them. And I do have to say, overall, in the big picture, I thought they played really, really good. And I think they solidified themselves that going forward, they're still a contender. In the way that they kept themselves in this game and took the lead, and they had multiple opportunities that they really could have finished this game off. They let Pittsburgh stay in it. Wilson hits Mike Williams to take the lead, and we know what happened from there. But overall, I was I was impressed in terms of Washington being able to move the ball against this Pittsburgh defense. Terry McLaurin had a really big game with 5 receptions for 113 yards. I thought Jaden Daniels didn't have his greatest game, but played clean football and made certain plays to keep them in the game. I thought Austin Eckler came up big with 2 touchdowns. The run game as a whole was not that efficient for Washington, which really could have helped them in this one. But overall, I have to say, going up against this Pittsburgh team, I thought Washington was able to get some offense going, more offense than I expected. As far as Pittsburgh, man, I thought entering this year that they would be, a 10-11 win team. With Russell Wilson, if he could look, more like second year Denver compared to first year Denver, I thought that would have been enough. But this defense has started off elite and was able to carry Justin Fields through the first couple games. Now Russ has come back and he's commanding the offense. He gives this Pittsburgh Steelers team something that they haven't had since probably 2016. And that's someone who can consistently push the ball down the field. And Ben Roethlisberger, of course, he was that player, but in his later years of his career, he really struggled. He really struggled. He wasn't that Ben Roethlisberger that we knew and we grew up and loved. He wasn't that guy. And Russell Wilson, this game, he made 2 to 3 throws downfield that, as Arthur Smith, whenever Arthur Smith was coordinating the games, was Justin Fields calling the game. It was a very conservative game. They were playing as if to let the defense win, to not lose the game rather than win the game. With the Russell Wilson and Pittsburgh team, offensively, they've expanded their playbook. They're going for it. We're seeing more, we're seeing more fabulous catches by George Pickens, catches that come out of nowhere, because Russell Wilson is giving him those opportunities to go for those 50-50 balls. Mike Williams, him, he got he got kicked out of the back door in New York. Relationship deteriorated with him and Rodgers. And now he's came into Pittsburgh, immediately making an impact with that big play, playing on limited snaps, getting that touchdown to give Pittsburgh that fourth quarter lead. For me, it was very, very impressive. And then there was a little bit of controversy in this game, that fourth down. Look, the ball is down wherever he gets touchdown with contact. When his knee touched the ground, and Zach Ertz, I'm talking about that fourth down, that Washington, that 4th and 9 from around midfield. When his knee touched the ground, the ball is just a little bit short. And then on to compound that, Steelers are in a position in 4th and 1. They have the offense out there. I can look. I don't know for sure because I don't know. I don't think Mike Tomlin spoke about it after the game. I'd have to check the presser. But I really not want. I think there's probably a 0.00001% chance that on that 4th and 1 that Steelers had to ice the game, that they were actually gonna snap that football. They went in there trying to get that delay, trying to get that offsides, trying to draw them off. There is no way they would have taken that 5-yard penalty. I don't even think they would. I don't know if they had a timeout left, but they probably wouldn't have even taken that timeout. They would have took that 5-yard penalty, the delay of the game, and they would have punted and relied on their defense to, and made Washington drive the field. There was no way they were going for that. But clumsiness, rookie mistake by the Commanders, defensive lineman jumps offside, game over. Pittsburgh wins. But look, Pittsburgh is a team that has no real weaknesses, in my opinion. I think offensively now with Russell Wilson, they can push the ball down the field. They have a pretty good run game with the combination of Najee Harris and Jalen Warren. And by the way, I thought overall yesterday they had a really good game as a tandem running the ball. They ran the ball for 120 yards combined. Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, especially Warren with his 14 carries for 66 yards. I think they complement each other really well. With George Pickens, you have that player that you can occasionally, throw the ball to. The number one, I think Mike Williams now, you get a little bit more downfield action from him. I think he'll open up that offense even more with the combination of Russell Wilson. And defensively, Pittsburgh is arguably the best defensive team in the league, especially early on this season. We know how solid they are. Special teams-wise, you also have Cordero Patterson. We know, the amount of blocked field goals that the Steelers have had. They had a special teams miscue actually in this game with the fake punt attempt where they couldn't get that to go. But overall, they're a very, very good defensive special teams unit. They have no weaknesses in this team. They can do every facet really, really well. And you compare them to the top teams in the AFC. Now the Chiefs are 8-0 and they just keep managing to win games. So, obviously the Chiefs are ahead of them. But can you say definitively there's any team ahead of Pittsburgh other than that? Because I think these other teams have a weakness. I think Buffalo Bills, their offense is a weakness. Right now, they're 8-2, but look at the quality of oppositions. Just look at their wins. Buffalo, their wins. Arizona early on the season, which now looks like a better win than it was then. We know that Miami game, what happened in that game with Tua's injury and all that. You got the Jaguars. They got dog walked by the Ravens. They beat the Jets. They blew out the Seahawks. They beat the Dolphins, and that was a good one. That win they had against the Dolphins last week, especially what the Dolphins did today. They beat Tennessee. They lost to a Houston team that's not great. I think the Buffalo Bills is a pretty overrated team because offensively, even with the addition of Amari Cooper, I don't think they have enough offensively in terms of weapons to expand that offense. I think Amari Cooper is a wide receiver that goes missing in the biggest and brightest of moments. I think Josh Allen is also have that. I don't think he goes missing in the biggest and brightest of moment. I just think he randomly has the potential to go 9 of 30 as he did against the Houston Texans. He has that haywire gene to him too. Don't trust the inconsistencies of that Buffalo Bills offense. I don't think Amari Cooper is going to solve that issue. You look at Baltimore. I say Steelers, they have no hole. Baltimore secondary, it is atrocious. One of the worst in the league. That's a major concern. Everything else about that Baltimore Ravens team screams legitimate Super Bowl contender. But that secondary, you can't have a weakness that big and be, automatically the second best team in the AFC. And then other than that, I mean, Houston has, I think CJ Stroud has regressed this season. We'll get to that later. Uh, but yeah, Houston, they have their flaws right now. They've suffered some injuries as well. Not having Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs being out the season really made that offense look a little bit one-dimensional. Joe Mixon not looking like the Joe Mixon we saw earlier this season. Houston, that's an issue. I think Steelers are a better team than them. So overall, I'd put them as the second best team in the AFC. And honestly, you'd probably say they're playing equal level of the football of Kansas City. Kansas City is 9-0 because they're just getting it done. There's been games that they, I don't even know how they have survived. How are they 9-0 is crazy. How are they 9-0 is crazy. The Buccaneers game, the Chiefs game, the Falcons game, the Bengals game. They're surviving. They're surviving in games, but they're not just surviving. They're surviving every single time. That's just the it's what happens when you build that pedigree as a Super Bowl team and you build that winning mentality. It becomes hard to lose. It becomes harder to lose games than win games. But I think Steelers proved themselves to be. Now, are they Super Bowl contenders? I think that's a little too far right now because I don't want to call any team really in the AFC a Super Bowl contender other than Kansas City, period. But apart from Kansas City, I mean, I think they're clearly the best team remaining. They're the most balanced. They have a quarterback that's done it before that's made a deep run in the playoffs. They have a head coach that's made a deep run into the playoffs. They have a head coach and a quarterback that both reached the Super Bowl. That's an important partnership, that head coach quarterback partnership, and they both have experience of making the Super Bowl, of reaching the Super Bowl. What other AFC team has that? Joe Burrow and Zach Taylor do, but they have not. They haven't been able to get it together. They have 6 losses on the season for frick's sake, and they're in Mike Tomlin and Russell Wilson. That's a head coach and quarterback partnership that they've both won Super Bowls. There's nobody in the AFC that's done that besides obviously Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. So that's something I think will give Pittsburgh an advantage as well.